Amber, welcome to the podcast. I'm fortunate that you made it. I understand you had a few children problems at the school.
Yes, yes, that's pretty typical. Little boys, they tend to get rambunctious.
I didn't know that. I didn't know boys do that. Because myself, I was a perfect child. You could ask my
I
mother.
believe it.
Of course, my mother's deceased now, so I guess you can't ask her. But anyway, I'm sure she would say I was a perfect child and never rambunctious. Although when I was just beginning to walk, I did stick a bobby pin into a light socket.
Oh, how did that go?
Well, it burned my hand and smelled up the place. And so, oh, and I did one other thing. I love fountain pens. I guess I loved them as a baby, and my father had a fountain pen. Uh, and so in those days, you didn't have a cartridge. You had to take it and vacuum up, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, the ink. Well, I didn't know that. I thought you just pour the ink into the thing. So
No.
I really held this very steady and held the ink over. It didn't go into the fountain pen, but it did go over all the desk and the carpet.
Oh boy, yeah, but
So
not rambunctious, not at all.
no, not at all. And then it was all over my pajamas, and I still remember to this day opening the bedroom door and going, "Mom." And I remember her screaming.
Oh, I bet that was like a bit of a horror scene. Like, what is all over you?
Yes. Well, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I get up before everybody else, and there's that fountain pen I just love, and I tried to write with it, and it needed more ink, so I was going to help my dad. I was just
Oh
trying to be
yeah.
a helper.
You're thoughtful. That's what it was. You're very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful. Well, now let's a little bit about you. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the Ogden area. It's a little suburb of Ogden called Harrisville. And I grew up there as the oldest, which meant the smartest and best looking and most perfect of all of my mother's children. uh, there's there's five of us total. We're still really close. We all live within 15, 20 miles of each other. And it was a really good childhood. I got to travel a lot and did really well in school, grew up playing sports, all of those things. After I graduated from high school, I met my husband and we dated on and off for a couple years. We'll save him the embarrassment of talking about why we dated on and off. And
It was
then,
probably his fault.
oh, always, of course, he's not here. Of
Yeah,
course it was.
yeah.
And then we were married in 2009 and moved just a little bit north of where I grew up to North Ogden. And we've kind of been in that area ever since. We've moved a couple of times, but all just stayed in that area. We had our first son 2 years after we were married and had two more boys after that. And now we are just busy with a teenager, and our youngest is 8. And we just love doing all the things. So it's fun. It's
All
been
right.
a very good life I've led.
Very good. Well, you don't have a girl in there anywhere.
No, we don't. We don't know how to make those, it turns out. We
Oh,
just make boys.
okay. Well, I know North Ogden because, as you know, your husband is. In fact, I'm looking at his business card. I'm going to make sure I
Oh,
get the title right here. He's an AVP.
he is. Yep, he is.
And that's with Golden West, and he's the one that helped
Mhm.
us get the document signed for the construction loan because I'm building a home in North Ogden.
That's so
So,
exciting. You're gonna love it. We love it here.
yeah. Well, we're in a very small apartment now. The reason I have it blurred in the background is there's boxes everywhere and things are just, anyway, we're like newlyweds again because
Oh,
we're in a
fun.
tiny little apartment and 7 minutes from where the build is. And so we're just, in fact, we can be in the kitchen both together and we keep bumping into each other. That's how small it
Oh.
is.
Oh, that's fun. Get
So,
to know each other all over again.
yeah. But I love North Ogden. I really do. I really do. And it's just a short drive to the temple, which I'm used to. I come from American Fork, and that was a
Oh,
10-minute drive from my garage to the parking lot. And now it's 15 minutes.
oh
I've added
man, we're
another 5 minutes to my drive. I don't know how
oh
people
my
do
goodness.
it.
I know. You got to plan ahead. You got to plan ahead better if you're going to go an extra
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yes. It was funny when Mount Temp was closed for cleaning, which is coming up with Ogden now. So we had to drive 20 minutes and we
Oh,
were on our way to one of the, we were in Utah Valley. We are like 20 minutes from five temples.
oh my
They're,
gosh.
they're everywhere. Anyway, but we're driving 20 minutes. And I told my wife, I said, how do people do this? They drive 20 minutes
I know.
to the temple? I just don't know how they do this.
Isn't that wild?
Anyway, Ogden Temple is going to be closed here very shortly for cleaning.
Yeah.
So
Then we're
we're
going to have
already
to drive to
booked.
Brigham City.
Yeah, we're already booked for Brigham City.
Hmm.
And we haven't been there
Yep.
yet, so it'll be our first time up in Brigham City.
I love
And then
that.
what is
That
that?
temple.
That's going to be what, a 20-minute drive?
Oh, it's going to be closer to 30, depending
30
on your
minutes?
traffic. Maybe
Oh
probably
my
about
gosh.
25 to 30.
30
Yep.
minutes. Talk about a sacrifice. My gosh,
I
30
know.
minutes?
I
That's
know.
30
I
minutes in
know.
the car with my wife. I have to talk to her
Oh,
for 30 minutes.
same one you bump into in the kitchen. You guys can't get away from each other.
Well, now, did you, your education wise, you talked about getting married and getting out of school. Did you go to college at all?
I did. I actually have 2 degrees. So I went to school right out of high school and I graduated with a degree in English and creative writing. And then I realized you can't really do anything with that. So I went back and I got a degree in communications. And I was like, I really, really wanted to be a news or a sports analyst on ESPN. That is what I really wanted to do. And then I
Sports?
realized, I know I love them. I do. I love sports. Which is probably why the Lord sent me boys, is because that is just like their whole world just revolves around that. So I quickly though realized I would have to be, traveling and gone and all those things that I would not really be conducive to the mother that I also really wanted to be. And so I convinced a junior high principal to hire me as an English teacher, even though I did not have my teaching license. And then after I had started teaching, I got my license, and I've taught public school now for 17 years. I did 10
Oh,
years at the
okay.
junior high, and now I am up at the high school.
Oh, I started with junior high. That's hard.
It is, but they were fun. And, it's really kind of crazy because I was pregnant with my oldest son as I was walking the halls of that junior high when I was teaching. And now he walks the halls of that junior high. And it's pretty
Okay.
wild to look and see how far we've come.
Yeah. So English teacher, and what did the course involve? Was it composition? Was it reading books and talking about them?
Like in the class that I taught.
Yeah, in the class. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was I taught ninth grade English and honors English, which was reading. There was always a reading component every quarter and a writing component every quarter. That taught a lot about like the classics, like the Odyssey, Romeo and Juliet, those kinds of texts. And then now at the high school, I get to do more modern literature, and we do The Great Gatsby and Tuesdays with Maury, um, and then we throw in writing. I just really, really, really love to read, and so I kind of tend to be a little bit more enthusiastic about the reading part of my job, and we do a lot of reading in my class.
Well, I've got to ask,
Okay.
and I'll give you the backstory after I ask. Do they have to read the whole book?
Yes, of course, but we do it in class. We do it in class. I don't send them
Okay.
home to read anything. We do it all together as a class. But yes, we read cover to
Okay.
cover.
The reason I ask that is because I've talked to some teachers at the college level, and they said their students are coming in and have never read a book all the way through. They discuss the book, and the teacher brings
Oh,
out
that's
certain
good.
highlights. This is becoming a serious problem. In fact, there was a whole article on it, Wall Street Journal or something about it, that in high school they've never gone from the first page to the last page and then have to discuss all the different themes and interactions of the characters. And so it's becoming a
Oh,
problem at the
see?
universities. And the students, you give them a book at the college level and say, I don't know what book they're reading at a college level, but you mentioned Great Gatsby. So we're going to read The Great Gatsby and we're going to finish it in a week. And they go, what? You know how many pages that is in a week? Yeah, it's a week. We're going to read it in a week, and then we're going to write a paper on it, and these students are not prepared.
No, that is so unfortunate. I that there's so much you get so much out of reading a book cover to cover, more than just the story, right? It teaches us like
Yeah,
perseverance in some cases and grit,
yeah,
depending on what you're trying to read. And
yeah,
that's really unfortunate. That's actually how I fell into my love of the scriptures, was just developing my love of reading first, and then you know going into those books cover to cover. And if these kids don't know how to go cover to cover, that is not great.
yeah. It's very sad. I remember in high school, I was in California. I had to read Ramona. It's about the history of California and a young woman named Ramona, and everybody in the class hated the book. And everyone knew that at the 10th grade level, you're going to have to read Ramona and go, you're in 10th grade, you have to read Ramona, and everyone dreaded it.
Oh,
Somehow the
shoot. It
teacher
just
was
taught
very
you what
excited.
genre.
The
It
teacher
taught
was
you what
very
genre you
excited
didn't
by
like.
it. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
very excited by it, but we were going, really?
Shoot.
So, all right. So you have any hobbies? I'm sure you've
Oh,
got
yeah.
plenty of extra time.
Oh, just free, full of extra time over here with those little kids. Um, yes, I mentioned reading. I do love to read. I really love to garden, vegetable garden. I'm not super great with the flowers, but we're working on it. But I do love
Okay.
my vegetable garden. We're getting prepped. We were out there working yesterday, so that's a hobby of mine. I play the piano and also really love that. And travel. We just actually got back. Our family just went on a trip to California, actually.
To
So
Disneyland,
travel. We did. We went to Disneyland. We took our
because
boys, and
I
it
was
was
with your husband 2 days before you left for Disneyland.
was he stressed?
And so, and let's see, Disneyland. Yes, I grew up in Southern California and went to Disneyland. I really don't understand the fascination with Disneyland.
You don't? It's magical.
I don't understand the fascination. Anyway, I have been plenty of times. I've gone because we've taken grandchildren and things, but I just never. Maybe when I was very, very young. I'm old enough that I remember on TV when TV was just coming to start have color TV. People that don't know this, it used to be black and white. Anyway, a color TV came out, the Peacock with all the colors came out. Anyways, Disney had the wonderful world of Disney. It was in color. But
Mhm.
they just prior to that, they opened up Disneyland in Anaheim. And so I still remember watching on TV the various things. And I think as a young kid, I enjoyed it. But as I got older, but here in Utah, it seemed like everybody's in love with Disneyland. I see
It's because
stickers on cars and everything.
we all have so many kids, and it's you can just take them and wear them right out. It's great.
But it's expensive now. How much is a
It is.
ticket?
It is. I actually don't know the answer to that. I have a really good friend who's a travel agent. So I just tell her, these are the
Oh,
days I want to
okay.
go. This is where I want to stay. She does it all, tells me the total, and then I pay her. So
Oh,
I
okay.
actually
All
don't know
right.
the answer.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, maybe that's good news because maybe you don't want to hear how much the ticket is, but I hear they're pretty
I
expensive.
probably don't.
I remember when we used to get in, I think it was for 35 or $40, 30, $45.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
It's definitely more than that.
Yeah. Now, you didn't mention a mission, so you didn't serve a mission.
I did not. Nope.
Okay. Very
Yep.
good. Now, where did
Hopefully
you go
one
to
day.
school? Where
I
did you?
went to Weber State. I went to Weber State.
Oh, of course, because you live up here.
Right. Yep. Stayed at
Weber
home,
Weber
saved
State's the
money.
other blue, is that correct?
It's actually purple. Utah State is the other blue.
Oh, okay.
We've got
Since
Utah
I
State
moved
is
in the northern part of Utah, where I understand Zion actually is,
right.
um, I've got to learn my colors all over again. Uh, U of U's
Well, I
red,
bleed red.
BYU's blue.
I bleed red.
No, you bleed red. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, what sports do you like? Since you wanted to do sports and be
Hmm.
a podcaster or a broadcaster,
Yeah.
what sports do you like?
So I grew up playing softball. So that's my favorite. My husband and I, we actually played together for years and years and years playing. And but my favorite to watch my kids play and to like be involved in right now is basketball.
Oh,
I really like
basketball. Okay.
basketball a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've never been big in sports. I have a music degree, so I had to attend all of these sport events because I was in the band, but
Yes.
never interested in the sports. I played tennis in high school. I enjoyed tennis, but playing football and I was terrible at baseball. I played Little League for 1 year, I think it was. But I'm just not into sports, and I sometimes think it's a blessing
Oh,
because
you're
I
probably
see
right.
people so much in sports like the Super Bowl and they watch it on Sunday. Okay. Anyway, I've got a little problem with that. But anyway, so you enjoy sports. And it's interesting. I have a son-in-law who wanted to do the same thing, majored in communications at BYU, and he wanted to be a sportscaster. But
Oh,
it didn't work out that way. And he's got a great voice. And in fact, he's even been a voice for an audiobook. But
wow.
he went a different route. But yeah, he majored in communications, and that's what his dream was to be involved in sports. I don't mean to downplay sports. Sports are good. It's just that when you're a fanatic, it becomes a little rough.
Yep. There we believe in moderation, right? Moderation in all
Yes,
things.
yeah. What I learned down in Utah Valley, I made sure I knew what the scores were of the red and the blue, because
Yes.
I'd be out
That's
in
very
public and
important.
someone would say, "Did you hear about BYU?" And I go, "Yes, I heard they won. Isn't that wonderful?" Not knowing but why they won. Well, I know they
Or
got
what
more
sport?
points, but but it's usually because the quarterback at the last minute did something spectacular.
Right.
But if I just say, "Yes, that's wonderful," then they start talking for 15 minutes about the game, and I just go, "Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful."
You just smile and nod. Yeah.
I just smile and nod and let them talk about the game. All right, now you are on Instagram, and I
Hmm, I
understand
am.
quite popular on Instagram. And I am
Well,
looking at your web page, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes for this. It's
great.
Amber Jo Hodges, speaker, teacher, and author, which means you've written something. What have you written?
I wrote a guided journal. So it directs you to read a one woman a week from the scriptures, and they're from Old Testament, New Testament, Book of Mormon, and Doctrine and Covenants. And the idea is if you study one a week, that book will give you 6 months worth of study. So it has the references in there, it has guided questions for you to ask, and an encouragement to really like figure out what you can learn from her story to apply it to your own life.
Now, if they want to see a sample of it, is it in your website?
The cover is, I do not believe there is an inside view on there. I'm working on the ebook version, and then you'll have a little snippet of what the inside kind of looks like
Okay,
at
I'm
that
looking
point.
at the
I'm hoping
cover.
that.
It's spiral bound.
Mhm.
Um, the How to Be Journal is a guide for reading the stories of women in the scriptures. In it, you'll find 26 women scattered across the scriptures, all of whom have something magnificent to teach us.
Yep.
And so they can order the book right now on your website. And
Yep.
in our pre-show, you talked about it's going to be available on Amazon.
Yes.
And then you just
Yep.
mentioned you're going to have a digital version of it too.
Yes. Yep. All in the
Well,
works. Hoping the next couple weeks.
so do you have the book in front of you?
I actually do not. I actually gave away
What?
my own copy. I know.
Oh,
I had a sweet neighbor. My sweet neighbor was talking to me, and she just expressed that she really, had wanted one, and I had one copy at my house, and I was like, it's yours, here you go. And now I don't have any, so I need to order some for
Okay, I
myself.
was going to ask you to give me an example of a page. So you have, okay, you got a scriptural reference to the story. Then do you actually have a summary of the story or what?
No, no. So everything is going to be filled out by the reader. So I provide you who you're studying and where you find her story, all of the references, no matter where she is. So, like, for example, when we're studying Rahab, we see her in the Old Testament and the New Testament. So both references will be on her page. And then there's a little section where you write down what you already know about the woman, if you know anything. So a lot of them people have never heard of.
No,
And
they don't
so
know.
And so there's a little section where you're encouraged to think about what do you know about this woman, write everything down, and then you go through and you read. And then there's things like, asking you to summarize the story, what stood out to you in her story, and what personal application. There's a couple questions there where it's asking you, how would you apply the things you just summarized? How does that translate over to you? Because ultimately, in any book we read, but especially the scriptures, if we can't find a way to connect that book to our own lives, then we've missed it. That's the whole
Yep,
point. We know the scriptures were written for us and for our time. So taking that
yep,
moment to really figure out, this is how this applies to me, or this is the lesson that I learned and then can apply to my life. That's the
yeah,
crucial piece.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like a great book, and I'll just make a link to your webpage and they can
Right.
click on books and it says order now. And now it also says you're a speaker. In a pre-show, you said you speak at youth groups. What is the message you give to the youth when you speak?
Well, typically I like to find out what their theme is for whatever event that I'm coming to. Sometimes they're just like, just come and talk to us. And so then I talk about just a very broad view of the scriptures and really hype them up about the scriptures and the things that they can find in the scriptures. And we talk about key women that, and lessons that we learn. There's certain ones that are usually pretty much always applicable. But my favorite thing to do is to show them that literally every question I have ever been asked or asked myself, I've found an answer to from the scriptures. And so it's fun to take whatever their theme is for girls camp or youth conference or whatever. Everybody always has a theme, right? So to pick that theme and then show them where we find that theme
Yeah.
in the scriptures.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds great. Since we're on the scriptures, let's talk about the scriptures. How do you study the scriptures?
Oh, all different ways, really. I do chronological, so I love to follow the "Come Follow Me" guide. My current calling within the church is gospel doctrine teacher, so that is really
Oh,
great for me to try to study, as we're going through the weeks and make sure that I'm all caught up. So that's one method of study, is just start to finish. We talked about cover to cover, right? But my favorite thing is really just going through, either looking up topics, like if I have a question about something or something that I'm wondering or struggling with, I'll look up topics and find different stories about that. And I'm constantly reviewing the women in the scriptures. So there's always a woman, because I do that once a week on my Instagram. I talk about a woman from the scriptures every single week. And so whatever woman I'm talking about that week, I go back in and I read all of her references. So that's a continual thing that I'm always doing as well, is studying them.
okay. So on Instagram, you're on once a week.
Mm-hmm. Yep, live,
Okay.
once a week
All right.
live. Yep, just to talk about those, and the recordings are all found on my feed. So we do
Okay.
that once a week.
S-
Mhm.
So you're not an influencer where you're on there 4 or 5 times a day and
Oh no, I'm
showing
definitely
that
doing that.
and showing that you have a perfect life and you're driving a Mercedes or whatever.
Oh, nope, definitely don't drive a Mercedes. Just in my little Toyota mom cart. But I am on there talking about other things as well, not just the women in the scriptures. But the
Okay.
women in the
All right.
scriptures, that topic, that live happens once a week, but we talk about them all the time.
Okay. Very good. Well, now, do you do any writing when you're studying the scriptures? Do you have either typing or writing? What do you do when you study?
I am pretty old school, so I really love my wide margin scriptures and just writing right there in my scriptures. I also have like a little notebook, just plain notebook where I'm jotting down ideas. I'm trying really hard. I love the idea. So I'm also like I love technology. I'm real techie that way too. But I love the idea of having all of my study like notes, right? All of the notes where you can like read the scriptures, mark it up, everything on my iPad. There's something about the book. I don't know. I just really love having the actual book. So I haven't gone into like annotating digitally yet. I'm still just really holding on to the pen and paper, but we'll see. Maybe one
All
day.
right. And I've got to get you converted over to the gospel library.
I do have
Uh,
that. That is very handy.
yes,
That is
but you're
very
not using it the way you don't, perhaps you don't know my back. Well, you told me your husband told you all about me, but maybe he
handy.
didn't cover everything. But the reason I'm wearing this missionary tag is that's what I do. I try to get people to study the scriptures daily and
Mm-hmm.
to use the gospel library and to use it in a very deep
Okay.
way, in a manner.
Okay.
I'm all digital. I do use my iPad. I use my iPhone. I've got two iPads here, my little baby that I carry with me. And then I've got a big one, which I use. And um, that mainly stays here at home. And when I do take it out, it's because I'm going to go practice the organ. I use the iPad for my music. And you played music, piano, and I see a piano in the background. And I use what most professional musicians use. It's called Fourscore, and it
Mm-hmm.
has all the digital music and it switches pages for you, and it's really great. But
Wow.
anyway, getting back to the scriptures and writing, I use an Apple Pencil and I write. And then if that needs to be dumped over to the gospel library, then I simply can circle the text and it'll change it to the writing, change it to text and dump it over to the gospel library.
Wow.
And so, and then what I'm going to have to do is meet with you at another time. And I guess we're neighbors here somehow within a mile of each other. Come over,
Mm-hmm.
I'll come over to your home so you don't have to leave the kids. And I will show you how to get deeply into the gospel library. And I'm not asking you to go away from your hard copy of the scriptures. When I give
Okay.
devotionals, and I've spoken at BY Education Week, it's possible I may be speaking this year. I haven't heard yet, um,
Wow.
but it looks like it's headed in that direction. I never know until the last minute. But anyway, come over if you want, and I will. And I can't have you come over here because it'd be three of us in this apartment. I don't know if there's enough room. But
You can
but
come here.
anyway, but anyway, come to your home and show you how you can use your hard copy of the scriptures and use your gospel library and your iPad and put it all together because whatever you put into this gospel doctrine or I'm sorry, the gospel library is passed on to generations. All your notes, all your tags, all your links, everything is passed to future generations. Most people don't know that.
I didn't know
So,
that.
so at your death, the family can say, "Mom's dead, but we've got her scriptures, the hard copy, whether she wrote, but now we've got these long notes that she wrote into the gospel library, and they're all available to them."
That's
So
great.
there's a lot of good reasons to be able to use the gospel library. So I've just got to get you converted, and I'm very successful at it. I had one man write to me. He was one of my devotionals. That's what I do. I give devotionals. And he said he almost walked out when he heard it was about the gospel library, but he decided to stay. And on the way home, the Spirit said, "You know, you're complaining the whole time. Why don't you just try it and see what Elder Bernard was saying?" So he wrote back to me a year later and he says, "I am converted." He says, "I still
Wow.
use my hard copy, but everything is, I don't write in the margins. Everything goes into the gospel library. I use my laptop." And he says, "I'm absolutely converted and I want to thank you." So I've now got you on my conversion list. So
Perfect.
I think with missionaries, they call them friends now. It used to be investigators, but I'll have to put you on
Yeah.
my friend list and come
Okay.
over to your house and get you converted.
That's a deal.
Okay, all right. So, you love to read it, and you do make notes. You make them on the
Mhm.
margins. Now, do you also have a notebook that you write in?
I do.
Okay,
I do. Yep.
okay,
I
very
need to
good.
just switch it and make it my iPad instead of a notebook. That's what I need to
Oh,
do.
okay, very good. And when do you study? Do you like to get up before everyone else does, or do you just?
I used to. I used to prefer that in the mornings when everything was quiet. And now, actually, I teach at the high school, but I teach every other day. And so every other day, once I get my kids all off to school, my home is quiet. And um, so that has kind of become my time, is like a mid morning when I get everything done
Yeah,
and all of my chores done, get all of my kids taken care of. And then I like to just sit down when I don't have anything else on my brain that I need to worry about
yeah,
on my to do list. It's all taken care of, and I can
yeah,
sit down and just give as much time as I want
yeah,
to the Lord at that point. So I've
yeah.
started to prefer that.
Yeah, it's really important to have solitude when you study the scriptures. It's very
Mm-hmm.
important. Now, I have to ask one favor of you since you're the gospel doctrine teacher. I'm going to give you
I'm sorry.
assignment.
Oh, okay. What's my assignment?
I'm going to give you assignment, and the assignment
Okay.
is you need to keep reminding your class that the study of the Book of Mormon daily
Mm-hmm.
precedes "Come Follow Me."
Okay. I will tell them.
Most members do not know this and understand it. They think, okay, we're done with the Book of Mormon. No. And I'm not saying it because of me. I'm saying it because in my podcast, I've interviewed general authorities and I've talked to them about it. They go, nope, the Book of Mormon is to be studied every single day. And
Yes.
come follow me, you fit it in. And
Yep.
so on one of my podcasts, I showed how you can do that by using the references in the digital copy that's
Mhm.
got references to the Book of Mormon. But we need to be studying the Book of Mormon every single day. And
Great.
so you as a gospel doctrine teacher can have a lot of power in just slightly mentioning it, you know, maybe once a month. Just remember we're
Yeah.
supposed to be reading the Book of Mormon every day.
Or maybe I'll just give them a pop quiz.
Yes. Well, you're a teacher, so you love pop quiz.
That's
So
right. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah, you can give them a pop quiz and just say, what did you learn from the now that would be an interesting way to start the class.
Yeah.
I want to know what you learned from the Book of Mormon this week. And all the class
There you
is going
go.
to go, did she
They'll be
say
like,
Book of Mormon?
she's so confused.
What happened? That would certainly get that across. So
It would.
I just got done studying since I do a Come Follow Me YouTube. I just got done reading and studying the Doctrine and Covenants, and I had to stop because my wife needed something. But I then came back and came right back to the Book of Mormon, and right now I'm studying the character of Christ and have been for several months. So that's what I'm doing within the Book of Mormon. What I'm doing is I went through the Book of Mormon. Now I'm in Preach My Gospel, chapter 6, I believe it is, and that's got all the attributes of Christ and it's got all the references to the Book of Mormon.
Wow.
So that's how I'm getting into studying further the attributes of Christ and from the Book of Mormon. So,
That's great.
well, it's been a delight speaking to you. I don't know where your kids are right now. I know you had to take care of one in school. Are they still in school?
No, so I have two of them are home. One of them's out playing. The other one's working on his homework. And my middle son is at play practice. He's in the school play. So he
Oh,
is
he's at play.
there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, now you said you have three. What are the ages?
My oldest is 13. My middle is 9, and my youngest is 7.
Okay. Well, having been a parent and I had two boys and two girls. See, I know how to do it. See,
I guess you do. You got it leveled out. Even teams.
but I understand. I think girls are harder to raise than boys.
I believe it.
Yeah, I
I
really
believe
do
it.
because they hit about 11, 12, or 13, and they just boy, hormones kick in and just things, and they cry at the drop of a bucket, and everything is so emotional and so serious, and and guys don't do that. They just go off and play basketball.
There you go. There you go. You nailed it.
So, well, it's been a delight to be with you. And I've got to know your husband at least over an hour or two in a business meeting. And if I remember right, he's the bishop.
Yep, he is. Yep, we are
Yes.
in the middle of our sentence.
All right. And so you're learning what it is to be a bishop's wife. And people in the ward assume that you know everything that's going on, and you don't because he doesn't tell you anything.
That's right. That's right. I was warned when we were called into the stake president's office. I was actually warned by my stake president. He said, "This is going to be a very lonely calling for you because everybody's going to think you know everything, but you don't know anything, and you are going to lose every time because of that." And I
Yeah.
thought that is he doesn't know what he's talking about. And it became very evident very early on
Yes.
that he actually knew exactly what he was talking about.
Well, I learned something this last weekend. I flew to California and I had some time with our daughter-in-law. She's an amazing woman, absolutely amazing. Got five children. One's on a mission, but one is severely handicapped, half a heart, and he's legally
Wow.
blind. And I mean, she has to pick him up and change the diapers, and he's 17 years old. Just an
Wow.
amazing woman. She's the young women's president, but her husband is now the stake president.
Oh,
And she was told when he was set apart by one of the 12, I believe it was, um, that she's also in this calling. And she kept wondering, oh, what am I supposed to do in this calling? And
mm-hmm.
so they had a meeting of several stake presidents and their wives, kind of an area meeting. And so she got to sit down with these other wives who are in the same position. And she and Elder Runlin was there. And
Wow.
they had a question and answer. And so she asked Elder Rutland, she said, I'm part of this calling, but I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. And she said, you're there to advise your husband. And she said, what? Yes. He can come to you and talk about a problem he's having. He won't mention the families,
Mm-hmm.
but he can tell you about a problem he's having, and you're there to counsel.
Yeah.
You are his primary counselor. And that, she said, that just totally opened my eyes. And she said the same thing is for the bishopric or for the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
So that he can come home. And I served as a bishop, and sometimes I came home and I was pretty sad
Yeah.
what I had to deal with. But and at those and no, that was decades ago. Nothing about the wife being a counselor, but you're that's what you can do. You can actually counsel him,
Mm-hmm.
and when he comes home and struggling, but just he just doesn't mention the families or anything. But I'm dealing
Yeah.
with an issue.
Yep.
So. Well, we're at the end here, and as always, I ask my guests if they would please bear their testimony.
I would love to. I have a very firm testimony in the scriptures, and and through the study that I've put into learning about the scriptures, I have come to know um, my Savior and my Heavenly Father, and just how much they love and care for me as their daughter and as a woman, um, and not just me, but all of their children. And I believe so much and know and understand. Oh, we've got a little guest joining us over there. Know and understand exactly what they intended with their plan. And I know that my Savior lives. I know that he died for me specifically and for my needs. I know that families are forever, and I'm so grateful. And I truly know that we have a conduit to heaven in prayer, and that line is open for us at any time. And I'm so grateful for a Heavenly Father who loves me so much that he wanted to give me access to him at any moment. He never ignores that call. You know, sometimes I get phone calls and I hit ignore on my phone because I don't have the time. And I love so much that that's never the case with him. I can call and talk to him anytime. I learned early on about just how much, well, how to channel the promises that we make with God in our covenants. And I believe very deeply in the work we do in the temple and in the covenants that we make there. Sorry, I did not anticipate this to be a thing. I have seen firsthand just how powerful those covenants are if we do our part and then call on him to do his part. And um, I believe that God is the same and never changing. And if that's the case, then we have a living prophet on this earth, just like we always have. And then and if that's true, then that means that the Book of Mormon has to be true. And that also means that Joseph Smith was a prophet of the Restoration. And because of all of those things that we're learning about this year, that means that I get to have my children with me forever and my husband with me forever, which is really, if I have nothing else going for me, knowing that that is something I have going for me makes every effort worth it. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.